Thank you, Abby. That was great. That's Mendelssohn.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. We're glad that you chose to spend your time with us this Sunday morning. You could have been doing anything, but you are here with us. Apparently, a lot of people are doing other things, but I'm glad to see all of you. As Unitarian Universalists, we come together in worship each week to honor what is of worth. In this hour, we pause the everyday rush and flow of our lives in reverence and thanksgiving to connect with what is sacred, to remember our commitments to each other and the world, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, whatever your name is for the sacred, you are very welcome to bring your full self here. I am Ken Ettlinger, one of a team of worship committee members who fill in while our minister, the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, is not in the pulpit. Our guest speaker is Chris Paparo, biologist, award-winning writer and photographer, an educator who has spent decades observing the natural world with both scientific curiosity and artistic sensitivity. He manages the Southampton Marine Science Center of Stony Brook University. Chris's work, especially his photos of Long Island wildlife, remind us that nature is not somewhere else. It is all around us, and we are indeed a part of it. His stories invite us to look more closely, to ask better questions, and perhaps to leave here today seeing the world a little differently than when we arrived. Welcome, Chris. We're so pleased to have the talented Abby Flemming. Thank you for being here, our musician today. Our tech host is the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, back there at the computer. Well, she should be like on the beach and having fun. She chooses to do our tech work. Thank you, Reverend. Let's see, who do we have? Oh, are you also doing camera?
And audio, all of it today.
Audio, camera, and computer tech Zoom stuff. My gosh, what a multi-talented minister that we have. We also have a live transcript, hearing-assisted devices. Whether you're joining us in the meeting house or from your home, we invite you to settle into the sacred hour, free from distractions. There are printed announcements in your order of service, which are available out there on the table when you come in. So you can get those announcements either through the e-bulletin or the order of service. We do have something going on this afternoon. A whaling thing? Here, do you want to come up, Susan?
Hi, I'm Sue. The Whaling Museum, Sag Harbor Whaling Museum is having an inflatable whale that will take up most of this room from, I think it's 3 to 5. If you're interested in seeing this amazing thing, they want kids to see the scale of how big a whale is. So you could go to their website and buy tickets.
Oh, sure, that's probably a good idea. Okay, thanks a lot. Do we have any visitors who would like to introduce themselves? Anybody here for the first time?
I'm not here for the first time, but I attended once previously when Allison Cornish was the member.
Shall I repeat? Good morning, I'm Laura Lane, and I'm a guest of Nan Dalsemer. Nan and I met each other when we were approximately 15, and I have attended this meeting when Allison Cornish was minister.
Thanks for being here. Anybody else? Please take a moment to greet your neighbor. Just 1 minute. You can get up, you can wander around, but make it quick. Lighting the flaming chalice, a symbol of our faith, we hope that its glow will allow us to see this amazing planet that we live on with awe and gratitude, and remind us that we are all part of this interconnected web of life. If you will, we have a hymn for the beauty of the earth. It's in your black hymnal, and it's number 21. And you may have to grab one from another chair or share it, but this is the black hymnal, number 21, for the beauty of the earth. And so we can get up, if you're willing and able, and sing it. You know, looking at the osprey nests all around us on the East End, it's hard not to think about Rachel Carson, a marine biologist who worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the 1940s. Rachel Carson also wrote Silent Spring. You might know her name because Silent Spring inspired a global environmental movement. Rachel Carson wrote several books, many about the sea and shoreline. Her poetic writings allow us to look at nature through the curiosity of a naturalist. Take her description of the tiny marine flatworm, convoluta, a creature only a few millimeters long. Most biology texts would discuss the physiology. Instead, Carson in her writing prefers to tell a story. She describes how marine biologists can place these worms in aquariums where there are no tides. Yet twice each day, the worms rise from the sand into the light and then sink again, continuing to follow the rhythm of the ocean they no longer inhabit. She concludes with this observation: Convoluta continues to live out its life in this alien place, remembering in every fiber of its small green body the tidal rhythm of the distant sea. Our speaker today is also a marine biologist who, like Ms. Carson, is a storyteller. taking his audience along with him as he observes nature and allows us to experience the sense of awe. I believe for many Unitarian Universalists, nature is where they find their spiritual self, standing beneath the night sky full of stars, walking along the ocean shore with its rhythm of waves, bird song at dawn, walking barefoot on a moss-covered trail through the woods. Who has not sensed the magic that is nature? Every walk in nature is also a journey into ourselves. These moments can evoke awe, gratitude, humility, and reverence without requiring belief in a particular religious doctrine. The experience itself becomes sacred because it reveals our place within something vastly larger than ourselves. Silent Spring was required reading during my college years. The publication of her book in 1962 led to the nationwide ban on DDT, which is actually what saved our osprey population. In this country, it also led to the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency to litigate against polluters and safeguard our air and water. She would probably be dismayed that under new leadership, the present EPA is less apt to use the wisdom of science or the administrator's personal experiences in nature to work toward a greener, sustainable future. Instead, the permit process to assess the environmental impact of projects such as offshore oil drilling or the building of a coal and power plant is being streamlined to favor industry. Perhaps our leaders are not thinking that their wrong decisions will lessen the quality of life for all that follow. We need to protect nature not simply because we need its resources, but because our humanity is nourished by our relationship with it. Rachel Carson knew that opening one's eyes to wonder can generate moral responsibility. We seldom protect what we have never truly seen. It is difficult to care for a forest if it is only timber, a wetland if it's only vacant land, or a bird if it's merely another species on a list. When we pause to observe the astonishing complexity and beauty of the living world, knowledge is transformed into affection, and affection into stewardship. May your roots grow deep, may your branches spread far, may you find the world to be a wonderful place and leave it better for those that follow. We received two collections, a pink there's no colors on the baskets, but there are two baskets. One is the Helping Hand Fund, which assists people in need through the minister's discretionary fund. And the other one is the gift that sustains the meeting house and the work that we do here. So, Myrna, you're going to pass those around? That's great. Thank you. And we have the offering song, Spirit of Life. Spirit of Life. You can hum along. At this point, we're going to pause recording for the joys and concerns. So if you... I'm going to just light one last candle for those unsaid joys and concerns. Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. just open up my notes. All right. So welcome. Thanks everybody for having me here. This is a little bit different than my normal speaking engagements. This is a little bit different for me, and this is something completely new, talk-wise, that I'm doing for you today. So, my name is Chris Paparo. I'm born and raised here on Long Island. I grew up in Holbrook, went to Sachem, went to Southampton College, and I'm still part of the East End today. But you know, there's like, who is Fish Guy? So that's the question we're going to ask today here. And the clicker doesn't, my clicker doesn't have a port, so we're going to have to communicate on this one. So if you want to go to the next slide. All right, there we go. Who is the Fish Guy? Well, I just gave you a little brief bit about me, but you know, how did I get here? How did I get to this point? Well, the next slide will show you how I got to this point. I was a little tiny kid, about 6 years old. My dad took me fishing for the first, for the first time off the banks of the Shinnecock Canal, and I was hooked ever since. All right, comedy is not my strong point, but I'm working on it. We're working on it. But you can see here. Here's my dad, and the next slide here. You know, this is who really influenced me to become the fish guy. And to this point, you know, I still am a avid angler. You can see here, with some of my favorite fish are flounder. So those first fish I was holding were winter flounder. I haven't, unfortunately, caught a winter flounder rod and reel in probably 30 years. It's a fish that used to be super abundant, super common here on Long Island. But due to overfishing, habitat changes such as the brown tide, it's a fish that I have not caught fishing anymore. But I catch plenty of summer flounder, which is better known locally as fluke. And I've also made the journey to Alaska to catch, oh, too far. That's not Alaska, there we go. Made a journey to Alaska to catch the king of all flounder, the halibut. So that was an exciting thing for me, just to be able to, that first little tiny flounder and then catch one that was 200 pounds and as long as I was quite the amazing trip. And actually, I've been up to Alaska 5 times fishing for those king of all the flounder. But when I was young, you know, catching fish was all I ever thought about, all I ever, you know, could do. And I would read books on how to catch more fish, how to think about a fish. And then as soon as I was older, I got scuba certified. And all right, this is not when I was a kid. This is just last week. But I got certified when I was in high school. And it gave me the opportunity to see the fish firsthand that I was targeting. So there is our winter flounder. So I was able to put on a mask and dive gear, get down there and see a flounder, what it was doing while I was trying to fish. So in my head, I'm envisioning, all right, when I go back on land, now I know what to do to catch bigger flounder and more flounder. It was all about catching more and more fish. And then I would go and see the summer flounder. So again, I was like, wow, these fish are fascinating. And because again, when you catch one, it's flopping around on the deck of a boat or in a bucket. You don't get to see that, right? And then just their beauty. The next one here, you'll see just the beauty of them, you know, hiding in the sand, buried there. But again, I was focused on how to catch them and how to get more of them. So on this next little video, you'll see, now I understood why we fish a sandbar. They lie flat and they wait for bait fish to drift to them and they lunge up and they grab them. So now it all started making sense, right? And then while I was down there, again, I was starting to look around and just see all the other fish. So like this next one is a blackfish. It was another fish that I'd go fishing with my dad and we'd go on the rocks or on a shipwreck and I would dive those rocks and shipwrecks and I could now see how they moved in and out. Not only blackfish, but the sea bass. Again, another popular fish that I would fish for, and it was just fascinating to see. Then some of the other cool fish that we would catch often, but not so much, would get the puffer fish, the northern puffer, or blowfish is what people like to call them around here. But then I started getting a greater appreciation for some of what people call trash fish. And this next one is probably the most hated of all fish on Long Island. and it's the sea robin. You might be like, how can anyone hate a fish? Well, they want to go catch a fluke, and they catch this sea robin. And they've been told their entire life that they're these garbage fish, trash fish. And I hate the term trash fish because everything, no matter how unimportant to us, is important in the big picture. And one thing I like to relate that to, and I'm going to leave the fish world for a brief second, but like mosquitoes, right? Anybody here like a mosquito? No, they suck. Get it? They suck your blood. See the comedy? It's just not getting there. I'm working on it. But even mosquitoes, if we were to eradicate mosquitoes, we're going to have a detrimental effect. You know, so many animals depend on eating mosquitoes for food, and then it builds up. And then, as Ken mentioned earlier, osprey with the DDT. You know, we were spraying marshes to kill mosquitoes, and then what was the effect? It killed osprey, eagles, peregrine falcons, pelicans, you name it. And we're spraying today. You know, what's going to happen in 30 years when somebody else is up here doing this? Anyway, I regress. I'm going to go back. We're going to go back to our sea robins. So, you know, they've been told they're just trash fish, they're poisonous, they're venomous, they're all this kind of stuff. All that's not true. They actually make a great taco. They call them flying tacos because they got like wings, right? They bark. They make this grunting sound as they vibrate their swim bladder. And a lot of my angler friends are too embarrassed to keep a sea robin because they're trash fish, and all right, that's fine, but I often like to try to show them how cool this fish really was, and I didn't really truly appreciate it myself until I saw it. So you can see it's got those really big wing-like fins, so that's why I call them a sea robin, and in front of those fins, there are 3 little legs that stick down, and those act like legs. They've got taste buds, and in this video you're going to see here, it's hunting. How cool is that? We have a walking fish. It walks around the bottom looking for its prey. Now watch right here, it turns around because it smelled something. And right here it finds it, and then it finally, bam, grabs it. And then it grabs another one. You know, and so it's hunting, and it's eating the same stuff that a fluke or a sea bass are going to eat, the same little shrimp, little crabs. It's not eating garbage. I mean, how awesome is that? You know, but again, people just consider, it's trash, it's just garbage. You know, no, it has a connection. And just like Fish Guy, after eating a big seafood meal, he likes to take a nap. Oh, he gets more comfortable. He's going to get real comfortable. You know, so again, now this is a fish that people hate because it's ugly. It's not what I wanted. How cool is that? Like, that is just awesome. So to appreciate that. And then again, while I was diving, I started seeing other things that maybe I didn't catch while I was fishing. So the next one, especially, the bay scallop. Now, most of us have heard of bay scallops because on the East End, they used to be super abundant and important seafood. It's probably one of the tastiest morsels of seafood you'll get around here. But how many of us have seen the bright blue eyes of a scallop? They have 18 pairs of eyes that they see extremely well with. They can close their shell when they get approached by something. They can clap their shell and swim away. Just fascinating, but again, as soon as I got to put on that mask and get in the water, I was able to see that. And then our next critter, who doesn't love this one? The sea star. You know, sea stars are very common in our waters. They're a type of, and I call it a sea star, not a starfish, because it's what's known as an echinoderm. And echinoderm means spiny skinned. And you can see it's got a lot of spines on its skin there. But this is the Forbes sea star. And again, a beautiful animal that's down there. Again, people don't like them. You know, it's funny, there's people that love them because they're beautiful and sea stars, but they also think of decor, like hanging it up in your bathroom, which is not really a good thing to be doing with them either. But then there's the other people that hate them because they eat all of our clams and mussels. And historically, Bayman would cut them in half and throw them back. And that just makes double the population, because if you cut a sea star in half, each half grows new legs and you have 2 of them. To this day, even in the town of Southampton, there's blue law that says it's illegal to throw them back, which I still think is crazy because this is an important animal in the big picture of things, you know. And then as far as fascinating stuff, I think this next one is probably the coolest, is the lion seahorse. And I'll never forget the first seahorse I ever found on Long Island. It wasn't scuba diving. I was actually fishing. I was about 10 years old. I was under the Robert Moses Bridge over by the Coast Guard Station in Great South Bay. I was fishing for flounder. I thought I caught a monster, and I reeled it in. I was so excited, and it was just a big old pile of seaweed. I was pretty bummed and disappointed. I rebaited my hooks, threw it back in, but then when I looked down at that pile of seaweed, it started wiggling and started moving, and it was a little tiny seahorse. Now, one, I never even thought they were real, right? That's one of those mythical things you think, right? And then I didn't think it would be here if they were real. So I remember that day well. I played with that seahorse in a bucket of water for hours. I don't know if I ever caught a fish that day, I don't remember, but just the moment of finding my first seahorse, and it's burnt in my head. It's something I'll never, ever forget. And they're here. They're found in all of our local bays. You just have to slow down and go look for them. You got to be in their habitat. Most people don't like swimming around in seaweed. It's icky and gross. But if you don't go in the seaweed, you're not going to find the seahorses. So sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone and enjoy that. But then, so there's all that really cool stuff underwater. And then while I was fishing, I kind of just got involved in all the other cool stuff around us. So up above the water, we have all sorts of cool birds. And this one's eating a fish. So it kind of connected everything. And this is a greater black-backed gull. And it's the world's largest gull, and they're right here on Long Island. And most people consider gulls rats with wings. They're just garbage eaters. But as you can see here, it's eating a fish that it caught. They eat crabs. They eat clams. In fact, in the wintertime, I've seen them kill ducks. People don't think of a gull as a predator, but they are a true predator. Again, don't get the appreciation. Then you walk down the beach, and you'll see these other birds, the American oystercatcher. This is a bird of spring, so they're gone. They migrate south. They're winter birds. They're summer birds. They're only here in the summer. But in March, when they show up, you can hear them screaming and calling throughout the marsh. And it means summer's coming. Things are going to get warm again. Things are going to green back up. But again, you have to sometimes with some of these birds like that one, it's obvious, bright orange beak, it's on the shoreline. But sometimes you just have to slow down, like this next bird. If you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. That's an American bittern. And this is down in Dune Road in Hampton Bays, and I call them the ghosts of the marsh. They blend in so well. They get these vertical stripes, and in fact, if they feel threatened in any way, they'll stand straight up like the grass, and they'll even sway to look like grass. Because if they stand still and all the grass is moving, they stand out. But again, if you don't slow down, and I'll say that throughout this talk, is slow down. There's a lot of, I'm talking pretty fast because I got a lot of slides. I got a little bit of a window. I talk for hours. So, but slow down because there's so much neat stuff out there that I think we just often miss it, This next one is, Kenneth mentioned earlier, the osprey. It's one of my favorite birds around here. Again, another summer bird. When they show up mid-March, it's exciting because, for me, I want summer sometimes to get here. And it's just like, oh, the osprey here, which means the fish are showing up, But again, due to DDT and spraying, these birds were wiped out. And we have a pair at the college where I work, and I actually named them Ral and Mary, after Ral and Mary Welker. I don't know if anybody knows the Welkers, but Ann Welker is Suffolk County Legislator Welker. Ral formed the research center at Southampton back in the 60s. I spoke with Mary at the time, I didn't have this in my plan, but after reading what you said, Ral has passed away. Mary's still going. She's in her mid-90s. She's awesome. She comes down to the college to check on the kids. But she was telling me that Ral would be honored and thrilled about this, because thrilled at the fact that they're osprey at the college, because he used to hand out the Silent Spring to his students, because there were no osprey. And he'd be just honored and thrilled at the fact that they've made a comeback and are at the place that he started. So it's been awesome, but they're facing other problems right now as well. The last 3 seasons, we've lost all the chicks due to starvation. And it's something that's been happening from Virginia up to Cape Cod. All the osprey in Old Fort Pond have lost their chicks. I don't know what it's like out here, but what's affecting them now is lack of food, lack of bunker. The Atlantic menhaden is a fish that they depend on, and there's just not enough of them around. So it's been tough watching them the last 3 years just starve. But again, keep in mind, part of this is there is some natural cycles, right? I mean, osprey are super abundant now. I sometimes like to think maybe this is just Mother Nature's way of kind of checks and balances, but, it's something that's happening a lot right now. So just something to be aware of. And not just summertime. I mentioned I like summer. I keep waiting for it to get here, but there's a lot of cool stuff in the winter. So this next one is a winter resident, the snowy owl. This is a bird that comes down from the high tundra. Not every winter, some years more than others, but they're only here in the winter. I've seen them as early as November, and by early May at the latest, they're gone. But so with this bird, not only do you have to slow down, you got to be outside in the cold, in the dead of winter. Very few of us go to the beach in January. It's my favorite time to be on the beach sometimes. Yes, it's freezing, but there's nobody there, and there's so much cool stuff. So again, while I was doing all that fishing, learning about fish, and then getting into the birds, I was getting all excited. I've known since I was about second grade that I was going to be a marine biologist. That was my dream. And my dream was to go to Southampton College, which I did. I went to Southampton College. Because again, as a kid growing up here, if there was anything in the news, the professional was from Southampton College. So that was drilled in my head. And then there was a group called Okinos. I don't know if anybody remembers Okinos, but it was the New York Marine Mammal Stranding Rescue Program. It was formed in the early 80s. It went out of business in 95. But while I was there, I worked for them. Now, it's now called the New York Marine Rescue Center. But again, when I first was staff with them, full-time staff, I was Okinos. They went under. Then it was the Riverhead Foundation. Then they changed names, and it's now the New York Marine Rescue Center, which I still am active volunteer. And I worked for them for 5 years, full-time while I was going to school full-time. But I always wanted to be an aquarist, so someone who took care of fish tanks. I had fish tanks all over my house. I was obsessed with fish. And it just so happened they were building an aquarium. So the day I graduated, I actually quit the rescue center, and I was working full-time for Atlantis Marine World. I was one of the people that built the place. I was from a pile of dirt. My first job was pushing wheelbarrows around. If anybody's been there, the big shark tank, I glued every barnacle in place. The old seahorse tank, I don't know if it's still there, but I sculpted the pilings that were in the middle of that tank. And I was there for 13 years. My wife is still there. She's the curator of marine mammals. So she's an animal trainer. We're both in this field. But I left the aquarium to pursue Fish Guy photos. I left the aquarium for there were many reasons, but one of the driving things is I needed something different, and I was getting bored, and I needed something different. So I started pushing this business. And it was just something I started before I left the aquarium, but it was really just a web page. But after this point, I then started through mentorship. I had a good friend who helped mentor me as a writer, which if you knew me in high school would have been crazy because I was not a writer. I hated English, I hated remedial, I was in all remedial, all that stuff. But I had a good mentor that helped me. And with that, though, I started writing for the Fisherman magazine, which was the magazine I grew up reading. I had my first article published in the Fisherman, which was so exciting. But then the North Forker and On the Water magazine, I had columns in both of those magazines for 5 and 6 years in those. And what was great with the fishing magazines, I wasn't writing how to catch fish. I was writing how to think like a fish. So I was writing about all the first stuff. My first magazine article for On the Water, it was a column, and it said, anything you want, just connect it to fishing. My first article was called Old School Scouting. It was in January. And it was about sea ducks. And how does that tie to fishing? Well, sea ducks eat mussels and crabs. And they're only here in the dead of winter. So if you go to a place and you see a bunch of sea ducks feeding in an area, well, it's probably a rocky bottom with a lot of mussels and crabs. Well, in the spring, that's where the blackfish are going to be. So that's how I connected it. It was great. And then those writing got me my first travel gig to Alaska. So I mentioned that halibut earlier. Well, another friend / mentor got me up to Alaska. Hey, my friend's a writer, photographer, let him come up here. Long story short, I did what I had to do. I wrote 2 articles after that first trip. I was only supposed to write 1. He loved it. He invited me back. And then he invited me back. Then I brought my wife up there, and I wrote about bringing her on a fishing trip like this. I just got back 2 weeks ago from my 5th trip, and I'm trying to plan a trip in 2028. But that was because I kind of put it all into like writing and writing and writing. But then I also started lecturing. So I found that I like to talk, and I like to talk to people. And I also found it was way more lucrative to lecture than it was to write. Because I got a whole pile of lectures on this laptop, and I could show up, and right now you could say, I got 13 lectures. Which one do you want? And you could say, the fish one, and I could give the fish one. And I go to another place tomorrow and get the same lecture. While writing, it took me 3, 4, 5 nights to get an article done, and I get it done, and I get it out there. And now next month, what do I have to write about? I had to come up with something completely different. So now I speak 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on my schedule. This is a lecture series that I host at a brewery in Riverhead. I've been doing it for over 10 years. But now I bring in my colleagues and students to be speakers to get them better at it. But around that time, though, I was realizing Fish Guy wasn't enough to pay my bills. You know, I had mortgage and insurance. So right around that time, I was stressing out of what I was going to do. Stony Brook University built this brand new Marine Research Center. And it was a job opening for a manager to run it. And I was kind of discouraged at first because I only have a bachelor's degree. I don't have a PhD or an MS. I don't have any fancy letters next to my name. But a few people said, you got to apply for this. And I did. And I beat out over 100 people that were all PhDs and master's students because I had a ton of experience with aquariums and being an educator and being outside. So if there's any students, I know there's no students here, but if there's anyone online, like, just work hard and you'll get to where you need to be. But then working at Stony Brook, I started getting exposed to all sorts of other stuff. So like seals. We have a whole population of seals here on Long Island. These are some harbor seals. Then I started working with some researchers doing whale stuff. So this is a humpback whale right off of Cooper's Beach out in Southampton. Here's another one, which I think this might have been a little bit further west over by Tiana. Then we've got dolphins. These are the bottlenose dolphins. So I started working with these researchers, but then I started being able to take pictures and photos, and I turned all those videos and photos into another lecture. In fact, Thursday night I'm speaking at the Middle Country Library, and it's called Whale Watching with the Fish Guy. So it's going to be about all my stuff there. And around that time, a good friend of mine, Greg Metzger, who's a teacher at Southampton, I started doing a lot of fishing with him. We went to college together, and we started catching a lot of sharks. So this is a mako shark that we caught, eventually caught. I filmed it first, and then we caught it. We tagged it and let it go. And it was recaptured 2,200 miles away off the coast of Africa. And that was like, ooh, wow. Just two friends that were doing this for fun, did something really cool. Anyway, taking a really long story and shorten it, we put a lot of effort into that. And today we created the South Florida Natural History Museum Shark Research Program. And we're tagging all sorts of sharks. In fact, the work that we did proved that this little baby shark, little baby white shark, Long Island is an important nursery ground for that shark because of the work that we did. We published a scientific paper showing that from Montauk to Cape May is vital habitat, one of 3 in the world for the white shark. And it's the great white. Great white is Hollywood, But then again, at this point, my passion is education. I really like to educate people about their own backyards, the stuff that's right here. Here, but also if you live in Ohio, your own backyard. There's so much cool stuff, and we don't appreciate it. So to continue my education stuff, I got a drone. Now, eye in the sky, I got to give a different look. So like Shinnecock Bay, one of my favorite places, I now got to show people what it looks like from the sky, from a different perspective. And it just people don't appreciate your backyard, so that's beautiful, right? And then beautiful stuff like this. So this is a sand tiger shark. I took that picture just last week. It's a sand tiger shark with a school of little bait fish that swim around it. And that was about 100 yards off the beach, just swimming along, Nobody was harmed, they're just doing their thing. But again, it's fascinating. And then look at the next one. This is a baby white shark. Again, little 4 foot. By the way, they're born at 4 foot. So that's a baby. They come out pretty big. But again, the beauty of just what's here. And then, to whales and dolphins again, we have whales, we have dolphins. If you go to the Whaling Museum later today, you'll learn a lot more about that. But Long Island's been a whaling port forever. Unfortunately, we killed them all. We hunted them to near extinction. But what's fascinating is humpback whales are no longer listed as endangered or threatened. It's a recovered species, which is just unbelievable. Osprey, whales, eagles, there's success stories, right? So we got to keep pushing for that. And then some of the oddball stuff we get here. Oh, no, not that one. I'm odd, but not that odd. There we go. Sorry. I talk with my hands a lot, so I might have given you another, sorry. So this is the mola mola, also known as an ocean sunfish. Again, crazy, fascinating looking animal. But the thing about Long Island is, and I kept saying I love summer, I love summer, I love summer. That's because that's when all the cool marine fish, whales, dolphins are here. In the wintertime, a lot of that stuff goes away. But I still love being outside, I still love nature, so I switched to birds and whatnot. And as far as showcasing our own backyard, I've also branched out a little bit. So here I'm at my in-law's farm in Connecticut, Lebanon, Connecticut. I'm up there in a tractor with my father-in-law installing a barred owl box. We don't have barred owls here on Long Island. They're upstate New York, they're everywhere else, just not here on Long Island. But we installed that giant box, and if you go next, you'll see I then have trail cams. So I've now started focusing on terrestrial stuff that people in your backyard maybe don't see. So I set up that camera on a tree next to that box, and I was able to capture Mom bringing a rabbit back to the baby who sticks its head out. So again, now this is a camera that's capturing something that's going on, and I don't have to be there. So it's almost like I have employees now. All my trail cams, they're like interns. They're working around. I have 17 trail cams working right now, and they're hopefully catching stuff. And then I branched on that. I stuck a camera in the box. So now I was able to see what's going on the inside. So again, these are baby barred owls, and it's fascinating. And then, one of my biggest or most popular feeds is usually in this early summer is my wood ducks. So this is my backyard. I have a wood duck box. I'm in the woods. I'm about 200 yards from the water, but I put up this box, and now every year I watch the babies jump. So the eggs hatch, and 24 hours later, they jump out with Mom. And this has become such a popular thing. But again, this is literally my backyard. So now people are starting to get motivated to put stuff like this in their own backyards to learn this kind of stuff and see this kind of stuff. Those trail cams, you'd be amazed what goes on at your house out in your backyard. Even if you have a fenced yard, you put one out, the things that go by during the day when you're not home, at night when you are home, fascinating. Flying squirrels, all sorts of really cool stuff. But the wood ducks, I said, are super fascinating. This year I actually had 3 successful clutches. One clutch had 22 ducklings in it jump out. And because they hatch and they jump out at 24 hours later, for some reason I always get sick the day they're jumping out. And I got to call in sick to work because I set up a blind in my backyard so I can capture these images. Them jumping out. They bounce like a little rubber ball. So I have a blind set up in my backyard. And my backyard's smaller than this room. So I'm not talking like I got fields. I got a little tiny yard. But I set up a little blind, and I sit there, and I take pictures as they jump out, or at least I try. It happens quick. But then, continuing on with the trail cams, teaching people about all the cool stuff that's here. So this next one was a shocker. It was the first one I've ever caught or seen alive on Long Island. Not the deer, but the critter that the deer are afraid of. Is it playing? I can't see. Oh, there we go, okay. There it is. Skunk. We have skunks here, and people don't realize it, but the thing is with skunks is they're nocturnal. So most of the time you're not seeing them outside. And unfortunately, these are fortunate, depending on which side of this you sit on, it's hard to tell if you smell a skunk anymore because it smells like something else, and I will not get into that. But then, so that's one fascinating mammal that was here on Long Island. Then the next one was great. I found this in the fall. 24 hours after putting up the camera, I had a visitor. And then it came back. A river otter. So these have returned to Long Island. They were wiped out, but they've made their way from Fisher's Island to Little Gull, Great Gull, Plum, and now they're spread out. This particular one was in Quogue Wildlife Refuge. So we've got otters, river otters here. And then my white whale, because we're on the whale topic, right? We're talking about my white whale is one that I've heard rumors of and I've tried hard to capture. And it's not returned to Long Island, it's expanded to Long Island, and that is the eastern coyote. This was in Riverhead. Yep. Yeah. So it's estimated there's probably maybe about a dozen coyotes on Long Island now. They came in, though, through New York City. They came over the bridges and through the subways, and they've expanded eastward. Crazy. But again, it's just, Long Island is, it's not this just tiny little nothing, right? There's a lot of really cool stuff. And this was just a small part of it. And I'm a big supporter of your own backyard, and I think too many times we've been taught as kids, especially, I remember this, like, we got to save the African plains, we got to save the Amazon rainforest. Like, yes, all those places need saving, but how about just starting in our backyard? If those people focused on their backyard and we focus, everybody would be better off at it and just appreciate it that much more. But I should say, though, I do like to travel and I do like to explore other people's backyards. So my newest fish guy thing, I spend some time in the tropics, and not just any tropics. This is the Solomon Islands. And if anyone knows where Solomon Islands are, most of us don't. It's in the Pacific, but that's as far, but it's this little tiny remote island just northeast of Australia, pretty much. Papua New Guinea, it's in that area. It takes me 38 hours doorstep to doorstep, 4 planes and a boat to get there. But I've had the opportunity, when I was in college, I went to this island. It's where I met my wife. It was a tropical marine biology course. We didn't know each other. We were on this island. It was a tropical class. And anyway, fast forward, I went back just after COVID, and now I've been invited to organize trips, and I'm going back on my 3rd trip this winter, and it has just been another fascinating. So now I'm exploring their backyard. But again, their backyard has some really cool stuff as well. So it's been, to be fish guy, like I said, it's grown quite a bit, and a lot of it has just been hard work, and this is work for me. A lot of people are like, you scuba? I'm like, yeah, it's work, it's a job. When I'm there, I'm lecturing, I'm teaching, I'm doing stuff. So that's the other thing. I chose a job where I'm having fun every time I'm out there. So, but with that though, I still always come home to Long Island. There's still a lot of neat stuff right here in our own backyard. You don't have to travel. It's nice, but you could see some really neat things just here if you slow down and pay attention a little bit. The videos are, I think, a little slipping a little bit, but that's the Peconic River. It's just a beautiful spot. We have a beautiful island. So, but with that, thank you for having me this morning. This is who I am. I'm Fish Guy Photos. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all your social media channels. I like to promote Long Island's wildlife stuff. So, yes.
A technical question about bunker.
Yeah.
I thought that perhaps part of the reason why we had more whales was because the bunker population had, come back to some extent. So we had identified that there was a problem.
Well, the last 3 years, I've seen very few whales. Right now, all the whale watching out of Montauk is on fire. They're seeing amazing, but they're all feeding on sand eels. And that's why all the whales, I've seen, that one whale that I put up was the only whale I've seen in the Hampton Bays, Southampton area all season. There's been no bunker. And to your point though, there's no bunker, there's no whales. I'm seeing less sharks because there's no bunker. I haven't seen any bluefin tuna this season because there's less bunker. And then why is there less bunker? Depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of people that blaming overfishing, climate change. It could be they're just not here. Like there's cyclical things. So a lot of the researchers I work with at Southampton are trying to better answer that question right now. But it just shows how important this fish that you can't eat, and I tried, you can't eat it. Trust me. If I tell you can't eat something, you can't eat it. But it just shows how important this little tiny fish is to the big picture of stuff. So
So what about the fact that there are more dolphins now? To what degree?
well, same thing. They're here for that also, but I've seen a lot less dolphin the last couple years. Just because the food's not there, so they're spread out all over the place. In the past years, when the schools of bunker there, they were dolphin and whales all around them. So now they're just passing through. Yeah. All right. Oh.
Is there a particular fish that the osprey and eagles are looking for, or is it just all seafood?
Well, they'll excuse me, they'll eat any fish that's most abundant or that they're able to get their talons on. Somebody posted a picture the other day of an osprey with a sand shark. Sand sharks are pretty abundant right now, and they do spend some time on the surface, so they'll grab them if they can eat them. Ral was bringing back a lot of freshwater fish. So he was bringing back largemouth bass, bluegills, and a bullhead catfish. And when I see him make that switch, I know things are bad because they will eat those fish. And there are osprey that live strictly on freshwater fish, upstate New York and whatnot lakes, but those lakes are massive and full of fish. Around here, we don't have many big freshwater lakes. Most of them are ponds, and they don't have enough freshwater fish to sustain a family of osprey, not just the chicks, the parents as well. I've locally have seen osprey eating striped bass, fluke, all the freshwater fish, bunker, weak fish, but bunker are the most abundant, and that's the most important for them right now. Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Chris he lives several lives at the same time.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
You were a falconer.
I'm a falconer. I have a red-tailed hawk that I hunt squirrels and rabbits. That's when I said earlier I eat everything. My squirrel soup is awesome. Happy to share next time.
He started the Geek Talks at the brewery in Riverhead, Mustache.
Yeah, well, it started at Mustache, and now it's at Uber Geek. And yeah, that's a great community thing. I mean, it's
And that's like most.
every other Thursday, so we just had one. And I brought in a young naturalist, Aiden Perkins. He's 24, but he's a big birder, and he did something last year called the Big Year. So he went out to find as many birds as he could in Suffolk County, and he actually broke the record. He found 311 different birds, and he gave a talk about it. It was fascinating. It was great. And then next, not this upcoming Thursday, but the following Thursday, I have Marissa from the Peconic Estuary Partnership talking about horseshoe crabs and breeding and mating and all that kind of stuff. So we have a couple beers, eat some food truck food, and yeah, it's a great thing. Yeah.
And he raises pineapples on his windowsill, naming each pineapple after his graduate students.
Yeah. It takes me about 2 to 2.5 years to get a pineapple top to a finished pineapple that we eat. Should take you about 2 to 2.5 years as a master's student to defend your thesis. So if we eat the pineapple before they defend, they're dumber than a pineapple. If they defend, then we have a big party and they're smarter than a pineapple. I have a leaderboard. I have a leaderboard in my office of pictures of students and pineapples. If it's the picture of the student, they won. If not, then it's their pineapple and we eat the pineapple, and then I cut the top and name it after the next student. So yeah.
There you go on insectivorous plants. It's just amazing.
Yeah, my carnivorous plants, yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you so much.
We're going to be using, if you can stand up as you're willing to, for the Teal book, the Teal hymnal, number 207. Oh, 1064. I'm incorrect. 1064. Blue Boat Home. join us after the postlude for fellowship and light refreshments in our fellowship hall. And Chris will do the benediction. Come up to the pulpit.
So I hope the message you take from what I was talking about today was really just to slow down. Just slow down, get outside, and just slow down and pay attention. You don't have to be deep in the woods or at a beach. It helps. It's nice. But just being outside in your backyard and just enjoying it. Like I said, you'll be shocked at the stuff you'll see if you just take the time to slow down. So get outside. Thank you.
Well said. Let's stand up together. If you are able to, hold the hand or shoulder of the person next to you and recite the words for extinguishing the chalice that you can find in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Abby?